You look so poor, don't tell anyone you're my mother." My son's words hit me like a slap across the face. I stood there in my own living room, the room where I'd rocked him to sleep as a baby, and watched his eyes scan me up and down with pure disgust. "David, what are you?" I didn't get to finish. His wife grabbed my arm so hard I felt her nails dig into my skin. "You heard him," Jessica hissed. "1 hour. Pack your things and get out." "Get out?" My voice cracked. "This is my house." "Not anymore." She yanked me toward the stairs and I stumbled, catching myself on the banister. "You've been freeloading long enough. We're done taking care of you." Freeloading. The word made my stomach turn. I'd paid off this house 30 years ago. Every single mortgage payment came from my paychecks, double shifts at the hospital, weekends, holidays. I'd worked myself to the bone after their father died so my kids could have a roof over their heads. And now they were throwing me out like garbage. "David, please." I turned to look at my son, searching his face for any trace of the boy I'd raised. "Please, just talk to me. What's happening?" He wouldn't even look at me. Just stood there with his arms crossed, staring at the wall. 59 minutes, Jessica snapped. "And don't even think about taking anything that's not yours. That means the jewelry, the silverware, all of it stays." My jewelry? The wedding ring I'd worn for 40 years? The necklace David's father gave me on our anniversary? "Those are mine," I whispered. "They're family heirlooms. They stay with the family." She shoved me again, harder this time. "Now move." I grabbed the railing and pulled myself up the stairs 1 step at a time. My legs felt like they'd been filled with concrete. Behind me, I could hear Jessica on the phone. "Yes, Mom, we're doing it right now." "No, she's not putting up a fight." I know, we should have done this months ago." Tears blurred my vision as I reached the top of the stairs. My bedroom door was open, the bedroom I'd slept in for 3 decades. But something caught my eye as I passed the office. Jessica's desk. The door was cracked open, and I could see papers scattered across the surface, official-looking papers with thick black text. I glanced down the stairs. Jessica was still on the phone, her back to me. David hadn't moved from his spot by the fireplace. My heart pounded as I slipped into the office. The desk was covered in documents, bank statements, property records, legal forms. I picked up the first page, my hands shaking so badly I could barely read it. Then I saw my signature at the bottom. Except it wasn't my signature. It was close. The loops were similar, the slant almost right, but I'd signed my name 10,000 times in my life, and this wasn't it. "What are you doing?" I spun around. Jessica stood in the doorway, her face twisted with rage. "These documents," I held up the paper. "This isn't my signature. I never signed." She crossed the room in 3 steps and ripped the document from my hands. "You don't know what you're talking about. You're old and confused." "I'm not confused." My voice was stronger now, anger burning through the shock. "You forged my signature." "Prove it." She smiled, and it was the coldest thing I'd ever seen. "Now get your things and get out before I call the police and tell them you're trespassing." "Trespassing? In my own house?" "Your house?" She laughed. "Read the paperwork, old woman. This house hasn't been yours for 6 months." The room tilted. I grabbed the edge of the desk to steady myself. 6 months. That's impossible. I never... 45 minutes. Jessica turned and walked out, leaving me standing there with my whole world crumbling around me. I looked back at the desk. There were more documents underneath, dozens of them. I grabbed the top one with trembling hands. Transfer of property deed. My eyes scanned the page. Date of transfer. Current owner. New owner. New owner. David Chen and Jessica Chen. "No," I whispered. "No, no, no." I flipped through more papers. Bank statements showing my accounts drained to zero. Power of attorney forms I'd never signed. A will that left everything to David except I'd never written a will. They hadn't just kicked me out. They'd been planning this. For months. Maybe longer. My son and his wife had systematically stolen everything I owned, forged my signature on legal documents, and now they were throwing me out of my own house with nothing. 30 minutes? Jessica's voice echoed up the stairs. My hands were shaking so hard I dropped the papers. They scattered across the floor like fallen leaves. I thought about the life insurance policy. The one worth $300,000 that I'd kept paying into even when money was tight, because I wanted David to be taken care of after I was gone. My stomach turned to ice. They weren't just stealing my house. They were getting rid of me. I stumbled to my bedroom and grabbed my old suitcase from the closet. My hands moved on autopilot underwear, a few shirts, my worn-out sneakers. I couldn't think, couldn't breathe. On my nightstand sat a framed photo of David's kindergarten graduation. He was missing his 2 front teeth, grinning at the camera with his little cap crooked on his head. I'd loved that boy more than my own life. And now he couldn't even look at me. I grabbed the photo and shoved it in my suitcase. I didn't care what Jessica said. She could take everything else, but not this. Time's up. Jessica appeared in the doorway, her arms crossed. Behind her, David finally climbed the stairs. He stood there, silent, as his wife grabbed my suitcase and carried it down to the front door. "David," I tried one last time. "Please, just tell me why." For just a second, something flickered in his eyes. Guilt, maybe. Or shame. Then it was gone. "Goodbye, Mother," he said quietly. And he shut the door in my face. I stood on the porch with my suitcase at my feet, staring at the door. At the brass knocker I'd polished every week for 30 years. At the welcome mat I'd replaced just last month. Behind that door was my entire life. Every memory, every sacrifice. And I couldn't go back in. I pulled one document closer and read the header, "Transfer of Property Deed." My hands started shaking. They hadn't just kicked me out. They'd been planning to steal my house. I sat on the porch for 20 minutes before my legs would move. Where was I supposed to go? I had no money. They'd drained my accounts. No car. David had borrowed it 3 months ago and never brought it back. No friends close enough to show up at their door with a suitcase and a sob story. I was 68 years old, and I had nothing. My hands fumbled with the suitcase zipper. I'd packed in such a panic that half my clothes were inside out, sleeves tangled together. As I tried to straighten them, my fingers brushed against soft fabric. A baby blanket. Yellow with little ducks embroidered on the corners. I'd made it myself when I was pregnant with David, staying up late with a needle and thread because we couldn't afford to buy one. I pressed it to my face, and the memories came flooding back. "Mama, look, I got an A." David was 7 years old, running toward me with a spelling test clutched in his small hand. I was still in my nurse's scrubs, exhausted from a 16-hour shift, but I scooped him up and spun him around. "That's my smart boy," I said, even though my arms ached and my feet were screaming. Behind us, the bills piled up on the kitchen counter. The mortgage, the electric, the car payment. My husband had been dead for 2 years, and I was drowning. But David was smiling. So I smiled too. I shook my head, trying to push the memory away. But they kept coming, one after another, like a dam had broken in my mind. "Mom, I need new shoes. Everyone at school has them." David was 14, showing me a magazine ad. The shoes cost $120. I looked at my own shoes, the same pair I'd been wearing for 3 years, with holes in the soles I'd covered with cardboard. "Okay, baby," I said. "We'll get them this weekend." That week, I skipped lunch every day. Breakfast, too. Just coffee to keep me going through my shifts. When David tried on those shoes, his face lit up like Christmas morning. Worth it, I told myself. Always worth it. I folded the baby blanket with shaking hands and placed it carefully in my suitcase. 30 years. 30 years of double shifts and skipped meals. Of taking out loans I'm still paying off so David could go to college. Of working through holidays so he could have presents under the tree. I gave him everything. And he repaid me by marrying a woman who looked at me like I was dirt on her expensive shoes. "Mom, this is Jessica." David was 28, holding hands with a woman in a designer dress. She smiled at me, but it didn't reach her eyes. "It's so nice to meet you," she said, shaking my hand limply. "David's told me so much about you." Her nose wrinkled slightly as she looked around my small living room. At the worn furniture, the outdated curtains, the carpet I couldn't afford to replace. "It's cozy," she added. I should have known then. "Mom always wanted me to have the best," I heard David say. I froze. The voice was coming from inside. through the closed door. They were still in there, talking about me. My heart pounded as I crept back to the door and pressed my ear against the wood. "Your mother is a burden," Jessica's voice, sharp and cold. "We should have done this years ago." "I know, but what?" She was draining our resources, taking up space, making the house look cheap with her old lady things everywhere. Silence. "You said you could handle this," Jessica continued. "You promised me when we got married that you'd take care of the mother problem." The mother problem. That's what I was to them. A problem to be solved. "The house is ours now," David said quietly. "The accounts are transferred. It's done." "Not quite." Jessica's heels clicked across the floor. "Your mother has a life insurance policy worth $300,000. I saw the paperwork in her drawer." My blood turned to ice. "What are you saying?" David asked. "I'm saying once we get her out, we just have to wait. She's old. Anything could happen. A fall, an illness, the stress of being homeless alone could—" "Jessica, stop." "Stop what? I'm being practical. That policy names you as the sole beneficiary. Once she's gone, we'll have enough to renovate this entire house. Maybe even buy the beach property we looked at." I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. My own son was listening to his wife talk about my death like it was a stock investment. "She worked her whole life for you," Jessica said, her voice dripping with mockery. "The least she can do is die for you too." A sound escaped my throat, half gasp, half sob. The conversation inside stopped. "Did you hear something?" Jessica asked. I stumbled backward off the porch, my suitcase falling over, clothes spilling onto the driveway. The door opened. David stood there, his face pale. Our eyes met for a single, horrible moment. Then he closed the door again. No explanation, no apology, just closed it. I grabbed my suitcase, shoved my clothes back inside, and ran. I didn't know where I was going, didn't care. I just knew I had to get away from that house, from my son, from the woman who was waiting for me to die. 3 blocks away, I collapsed on a bus stop bench. The sun was setting. I had nowhere to sleep, no money for a motel. And somewhere behind me, my son and his wife were celebrating. I pulled out the baby blanket again and held it close. "That's my smart boy," I whispered to the empty street. But that boy was gone. And I didn't know if he was ever coming back. The bus driver found me at midnight, still sitting on that bench, clutching my suitcase like it was the only thing keeping me tethered to earth. "Ma'am?" He tapped my shoulder gently. "You can't stay here. It's not safe." I looked up at him with empty eyes. I have nowhere else to go. His expression softened. He was young, maybe 30. Someone's son. "There's a shelter about 6 blocks from here," he said. "Street Mary's. They take walk-ins. I can drop you close if you want." A shelter. I'd worked as a nurse for 40 years, owned my own home, raised a family, and now I was going to a homeless shelter. "Okay," I whispered. Because what else could I say? Street Mary's didn't look like what I expected. No sign outside, just a plain brick building with bars on the windows. The bus driver helped me with my suitcase and pointed to a side entrance. "Just ring the bell," he said. "They're good people." The door opened before I could even press the button. A woman stood there, maybe 50, with gray streaks in her dark hair and kind eyes that had seen too much. "Come in, honey," she said. "I'm Ruth. You look like you've had a rough day." A rough day. I almost laughed, almost cried, did both at the same time instead. Ruth led me inside without another word. The hallway smelled like industrial cleaner and old coffee. Through an open door, I could see rows of cots, dozens of them with people sleeping or staring at the ceiling. "We're full up tonight," Ruth said apologetically. "But I can get you a cot in the main room. It's not private, but it's warm and safe." Safe. I'd never thought I'd need to worry about being safe, not at my age, not after everything I'd done right. "Thank you," I managed. She set me up with a cot near the back, away from the door. The mattress was thin, the pillow flat. The woman on the cot next to mine was muttering in her sleep. I lay down fully clothed, my suitcase tucked under my arm, and stared at the ceiling. This was my life now. I didn't sleep. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw David's face, heard Jessica's voice. Once we get her out, we just have to wait. At 6 a.m., fluorescent lights flickered on. People started moving, shuffling to the bathroom, lining up for breakfast. I stayed on my cot, my body too heavy to move. First night's always the hardest. I turned my head. Ruth was standing there with 2 cups of coffee. "Come on," she said. "Let's talk." We sat in a small office off the main room. Ruth's desk was covered in files, sticky notes, and a framed photo of 2 teenagers. "Your kids?" I asked, pointing to the picture. "Grandkids," she corrected. "My daughters. I don't see them much anymore." Something in her voice told me there was a story there, a painful one. She pushed one of the coffee cups toward me. "So, what happened?" The question broke something inside me. The whole story came pouring out: David's cruel words, Jessica's shove, the forged documents, the life insurance policy, everything. Ruth listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "How long were you in that house?" she asked. 30 years. I paid it off myself after my husband died." "And your son lives there now?" "Him and his wife. They said they own it. They had papers with my signature, but I never signed anything. I swear I didn't." Ruth leaned back in her chair, her expression hard. "I've seen this before." "Seen what?" "Elder exploitation, financial abuse. It's more common than you think." She opened a drawer and pulled out a business card. "This is a lawyer who specializes in these cases. She works pro bono for seniors who've been taken advantage of by family members." I stared at the card. "Amanda Torres, attorney at law, elder rights advocate." "I don't have money for a lawyer," I said. "She doesn't charge up front, and if you win your case, she takes a percentage of what's recovered. But more importantly," Ruth leaned forward, "she fights. I've sent a dozen women to her over the years, women whose kids stole their houses, their savings, their dignity, and she's won every single time." Hope flickered in my chest, small, fragile, but there. "You really think I have a case?" "Honey, I think you have a slam dunk." Ruth tapped the card. "But you need to move fast. If they're planning to transfer that property, you need to stop it before it's finalized." My hands shook as I picked up the card. "What if David goes to jail? He's still my son. I don't wanna." "He kicked you out of your own house." Ruth's voice was gentle but firm. "He let his wife plan your death like it was a business transaction. At some point, you have to ask yourself, what kind of son does that?" I thought about the baby blanket in my suitcase, the boy who'd hugged me after spelling tests, the teenager who'd cried in my arms when his father died. "I don't know what happened to him," I whispered. "Maybe he was always like this, or maybe she changed him. Either way." Ruth stood up. "You deserve justice, and you deserve your house back." That afternoon, I made the call. Amanda Torres answered on the second ring. Her voice was sharp, professional, no nonsense. I explained everything: the eviction, the forged signatures, the life insurance conversation I'd overheard. She was quiet for a moment after I finished. "Mrs.?" "Just call me Linda," I said. I couldn't bear to use my last name, the name I shared with David. "Linda, do you still have access to any of those documents you saw?" "No, I didn't take anything." "That's okay, we can subpoena them." I heard typing on her end. "I'm going to be honest with you, this is going to be hard, emotionally I mean. You're going to have to go after your son, potentially press charges, testify against him in court." My throat tightened. "He's all I have." "No." Her voice softened. "You have yourself, and that's enough." I closed my eyes. Tears rolled down my cheeks. "Can you really get my house back?" I asked. "I can try. But Linda, you need to know, if we do this, if we go after them legally, there's a good chance your relationship with your son will never recover. Are you prepared for that?" I thought about David closing the door in my face, about Jessica's cold smile, about 30 years of sacrifice repaid with cruelty. "Yes," I said. "I'm prepared." "Good. Then let's get started. But first, I need you to do something for me." "What?" I need you to go back to that house. Today, while they're not home. Do you have a key? They changed the locks. Then we'll bring a locksmith and a police officer. Her voice turned sharp. If that house is legally yours, and I suspect it is, then you have every right to enter it. And we're going to get evidence before they can destroy it. My heart pounded. When? Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Meet me at the address you gave me. She hung up. I sat there in Ruth's office, holding the phone, my entire body shaking. Tomorrow, I was going back. And this time, I wasn't leaving empty-handed. I didn't sleep that night either. I lay on that thin shelter mattress, staring at the ceiling, playing out tomorrow in my mind. What would David say when he saw me? Would Jessica call the police? Would they fight back? Would my son look at me with anything other than disgust? At 1:45 p.m., I stood outside my house with Amanda Torres on my left and 2 police officers on my right. A locksmith waited by his van. Amanda was younger than I expected. Maybe 40, with sharp eyes and an expensive briefcase. She looked at the house like a predator sizing up prey. "You're sure about this?" she asked me one more time. My hands were shaking. "I'm sure." She nodded to the officers. "Let's go." One of them, Officer Hayes, his badge red, walked up to the door and knocked. Hard. "Police, open up!" No answer. He knocked again. "We have a court order to enter these premises." Still nothing. Amanda checked her watch. "They're at work. We verified that this morning." She turned to the locksmith. "You're up." It took him 4 minutes to open my own front door. 4 minutes, and suddenly I was standing in my living room again. The room where David had said those horrible words just 2 days ago. Everything looked the same. The couch I'd bought at a garage sale 20 years ago, the coffee table with the burn mark from when David left a hot pan on it when he was 12. The family photos on the walls, photos of a life that didn't exist anymore. "Where's the office?" Amanda asked. I led them upstairs, my heart hammering against my ribs. Officer Hayes stayed close behind me, his hand resting on his belt. The office door was closed now, locked. "Stand back," Hayes said. One kick, and the door flew open. Jessica's desk was exactly as I'd left it, papers everywhere, bank statements, legal documents. Amanda went straight for them, pulling out her phone to take pictures. "This is good. This is really good." She held up one of the documents, the property transfer deed. "Look at this signature. It's not even close." "That's what I told them," I said, "but they said I was confused." "You're not confused." Amanda snapped more photos. "This is textbook forgery. And this." She pulled out a bank statement. "They've been draining your accounts for 8 months. Small transfers at first, then larger ones. Classic financial abuse pattern. 8 months. While I was living in that house, making them dinner, doing their laundry, they were stealing from me." "There's more." Officer Hayes was looking at a filing cabinet in the corner. "This whole drawer is full of documents with her name on them." Amanda moved to the cabinet, pulling out file after file. Her expression got darker with each one. "Power of attorney, medical proxy, a will leaving everything to your son." She looked at me. "Did you sign any of these?" "No, none of them. They've been planning this for a long time." Amanda's voice was cold. "They were setting up to control every aspect of your life. If you'd gotten sick, they could have made medical decisions for you. If you died, they'd get everything." The room spun. I grabbed the desk to steady myself. "Why?" I whispered. "Why would he do this?" "Money." Amanda said it simply, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "People do terrible things for money." A noise downstairs made us all freeze. The front door opening. "What the hell?" Jessica's voice, sharp with panic. Then David. "Mom, is that you?" Amanda looked at Officer Hayes. He nodded and headed for the stairs. "Stay behind me," he told us. We followed him down. My legs felt like jelly. David and Jessica stood in the entryway, staring at the open door. When they saw us coming down the stairs, Jessica's face went white. "What are you doing in our house?" she demanded. "Her house," Amanda corrected, stepping forward. I'm Amanda Torres, Mrs. Linda's attorney, and you're both in a lot of trouble. David's eyes found mine. For a second, just a second, I saw fear there. Mom, what's going on? What's going on? My voice came out stronger than I expected. What's going on is that you stole my house. You forged my signature on legal documents. You drained my bank accounts. We didn't. David looked at Jessica. Don't say anything, Jessica hissed. She turned to Amanda. We want a lawyer. That's your right. Amanda held up the documents. But you should know we've already documented extensive evidence of elder abuse, financial exploitation, and fraud. The district attorney will be very interested in this case. Jessica's mask slipped. You can't prove anything. Actually, we can. Amanda smiled, and it wasn't kind. Forensic handwriting analysis will confirm these aren't your mother-in-law's signatures. Bank records show unauthorized transfers. And we have witnesses who heard you discussing her life insurance policy. Jessica's face went from white to gray. David stepped forward. Mom, please. We can talk about this. Now you want to talk? 30 years of pain exploded out of me. Where was the talking when you called me poor? When your wife shoved me out of my own house? When you let her plan my death like I was nothing? That wasn't. He ran his hands through his hair. It's complicated. No, it's not. Amanda's voice cut through the room like a knife. It's actually very simple. You committed multiple felonies against your own mother. Officer Hayes stepped forward. I'm going to need you both to come down to the station. For what? Jessica's voice went shrill. We haven't done anything wrong. For questioning regarding financial elder abuse and fraud. Hayes pulled out handcuffs. You have the right to remain silent. David! Jessica turned to him, her eyes wild. Do something! But David wasn't looking at her anymore. He was looking at me. And for the first time since this nightmare started, I saw my son again. Really saw him. The fear, the shame, the regret. Mom, his voice cracked. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. The handcuffs clicked around his wrists, and something in me broke. This was my baby. The boy I'd rocked to sleep. The teenager I'd worked double shifts for. The man I'd given everything to. And now, he was being arrested in my living room. Wait, I heard myself say. Officer, wait. Everyone looked at me. Amanda's expression was warning. Linda, don't. I need to know why. I walked toward David, stopping just inches from him. Why did you do this? Was it just the money? Or did you really hate me that much? He wouldn't meet my eyes. I didn't hate you. Then what? Silence. Answer her, Officer Hayes said. David's shoulders slumped. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. Mom, you don't understand. Jessica said if I didn't do this, she'd take the kids and I'd never see them again. She threatened my children. The room went dead quiet. What? I breathed. She said, his voice broke. She said if I didn't help her get the house, if I didn't sign the papers, she'd disappear with Tommy and Sarah. I'd never see my kids again. She had everything planned, new identities, different state, everything. I looked at Jessica. Her face was a mask of rage. You're pathetic, she spat at David, throwing me under the bus to save yourself. It's the truth. David's eyes finally met mine, and they were filled with tears. Mom, I had no choice. She threatened my children. What was I supposed to do? Amanda pulled out her phone. Keep talking. I'm recording this. Don't say another word, Jessica hissed. But David wasn't stopping. The words poured out of him like he'd been holding them in for years. I didn't want to hurt you. I swear I didn't. But she showed me messages, plans she'd made to take the kids to Canada. She had fake passports made. She told me if I didn't cooperate, I'd wake up one day and my children would be gone forever. Jesus, Officer Hayes muttered. I stood there, trying to process what I was hearing. My son hadn't betrayed me out of greed. He'd betrayed me out of fear. That doesn't excuse what you did, Amanda said firmly. You still committed crimes. I know. David's face crumpled. I know. But Mom, you have to believe me, I never wanted this. And the life insurance thing, that was all her idea. I told her no. I told her I wouldn't. "Shut up!" Jessica screamed. "Shut up, shut up, shut up!" She lunged at David, and Officer Hayes had to grab her. The second officer moved in, pulling out his own handcuffs. "Ma'am, you need to calm down." "He's lying." Jessica thrashed against the officer's grip. "It was his idea. All of it. He wanted her gone." "That's not true," David said quietly, "and I can prove it." He looked at me again. "Mom, I kept evidence. Text messages from Jessica, recordings of her threatening to take the kids. I was going to go to the police, but I was scared. I was so scared of losing Tommy and Sarah." Amanda's eyes lit up. "Where's this evidence?" "On my phone. In my car. Hidden in the garage." David's voice was steady now. "I'll give you everything. I'll testify. I'll cooperate fully. Just." He looked at me, and his voice broke again. "Please, Mom, I know I don't deserve it, but please believe me. I'm still your son." The handcuffs clicked around Jessica's wrists, and she let out a scream that echoed through the whole house. I stood there, looking at my son, this man who'd hurt me so badly, and I had to make a choice. Believe him, or walk away forever. "Mom?" David whispered. "Please?" And that's when everything I thought I knew shattered into 1,000 pieces. The police station smelled like burnt coffee and desperation. I sat in a hard plastic chair, watching through a window as they processed Jessica. She was still screaming, threatening lawsuits, demanding her lawyer. Even in handcuffs, she looked like she thought she could win. David was in a different room, cooperating, handing over his phone, his laptop, everything. "You don't have to stay," Amanda said beside me. "This part isn't easy to watch. I need to see it." My voice sounded strange, hollow. "I need to know it's real." She nodded and sat with me in silence. 3 hours later, a detective came out. Officer Hayes had introduced him as Detective Morrison, a tired-looking man in his 50s with gray at his temples. "Mrs. Linda?" He pulled up a chair. "I need to talk to you about what we found." My stomach clenched. "Okay." "Your son's evidence is extensive. Text messages going back 18 months. Voice recordings, emails. Jessica Chen has done this before." "What do you mean?" "She was married once before, in Oregon. Her first husband's mother died under suspicious circumstances, a fall down the stairs. Jessica inherited the house through her husband, then divorced him 6 months later and sold it." Morrison pulled out a file. "The death was ruled accidental, but there wasn't enough evidence to investigate further, until now." The room tilted. "You think she killed someone?" "We're reopening that case, but for now, we have enough to charge her with elder abuse, fraud, forgery, conspiracy, and extortion." He paused. "Your son is a different story." "What happens to David?" "That depends on the DA, and on you." Morrison leaned forward. "Your son committed crimes, but he's also a victim of domestic abuse and coercion. If he continues to cooperate, if his evidence helps us build a case against Jessica, the DA might offer him a plea deal." "What kind of deal?" "Probation, community service, restitution, maybe some jail time, but not years." Morrison looked at me carefully. "But only if you're willing to support that outcome. If you want him prosecuted to the full extent of the law, that's your right. My son, my baby, facing jail time. Because of me." "I need to talk to him," I said. They let me into the interview room alone. David sat at a metal table, his hands folded in front of him. No handcuffs this time. When he saw me, he stood up so fast the chair scraped against the floor. "Mom." "Sit down," I said. Saturday. I took the chair across from him and just looked at him for a long moment. Really looked at him. His eyes were red, his face pale. He'd aged 10 years in the last 3 hours. "Is it true?" I asked. "All of it? The threats? The evidence?" "Every word." His voice was raw. "Mom, I know you have no reason to believe me. I know I destroyed everything. But I swear on Tommy and Sarah's lives, Jessica threatened to take them. I was trying to protect my kids." "By throwing away your mother?" He flinched like I'd slapped him. I thought I could figure it out. get the house in our names like she wanted, then find a way to take care of you, give you money, set you up somewhere. I never thought she'd actually kick you out like that. But she did. I know. Tears rolled down his cheeks. And I let her. I stood there and watched her throw you out, and I didn't stop it. That's on me. Not her. Me. You closed the door in my face. I know. You listened to her talk about my life insurance policy, about waiting for me to die. I told her no. His voice cracked. I swear to God, Mom, I told her I'd never go along with that. That's when she showed me the passports, the plane tickets. She said if I didn't cooperate with everything, she'd be gone with my kids by morning. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him so badly. Show me, I said. What? The evidence. I want to see it. He looked at Detective Morrison, who was standing by the door. Morrison nodded and handed David a tablet. David pulled up text messages, hundreds of them. Jessica. Your mother is a burden. We need to get rid of her. David. She's my mom. We can't just. Jessica. We can and we will. Or I take the kids and you never see them again. Your choice. I scrolled through more messages. Then voice recordings. Jessica's voice, cold and calculated, threatening him over and over. If you don't sign those papers, David, I swear to God I will take your children to a place you'll never find them. You'll die alone, wondering if they even remember your name. My hands shook as I listened. There's more, David said quietly. He pulled up emails between Jessica and someone named Marcus. She's been planning this with her brother. He helped her fake the documents. They were going to split the money from selling the house and collecting the insurance. The insurance? I looked up at him. She really was planning to kill me. I think so. David's voice broke completely. Mom, I'm so sorry. I should have gone to the police the first time she threatened me. I should have protected you. I failed you in every possible way. I stared at the screen. At the evidence of my son's nightmare. He'd been trapped, just like me. Why didn't you tell me? I whispered. Because she was watching everything. She monitored my phone, my emails, everything. If I'd tried to warn you, she would have known. And the kids. He put his head in his hands. I couldn't risk losing my kids. Silence filled the room. The detective said you could get a plea deal, I finally said. David looked up, hope flickering in his eyes. If you cooperate, if you testify against Jessica, if you help them build the case. I leaned forward. And if I agree to it. Mom. I'm not finished. My voice was hard. You hurt me, David. You hurt me worse than anyone ever has. You called me poor. You let her throw me out. You watched me walk away with nothing. I know. But you're also my son, the words caught in my throat. And if what you're saying is true, if she threatened your children, then I understand why you did it. I don't forgive you yet. I don't know if I ever will, but I understand. Tears streamed down his face. What are you saying? I'm saying I'll support the plea deal, but on my conditions. Anything. You go to therapy, real therapy, for as long as it takes. You get full custody of Tommy and Sarah. You never, ever let anyone treat you or me like that again. I stood up. And you spend the rest of your life proving that you're the man I raised you to be, not the man she turned you into. David stood too, reaching for me. Mom, I promise. I swear I'll. Don't promise me anything right now. I stepped back. Show me, with actions, not words. He nodded, wiping his eyes. Okay. I turned to leave, then stopped. One more thing. Yeah? You're going to pay back every penny you stole, every transfer, every forged check, all of it. I don't care how long it takes. I will. I already told them I would. Good. I opened the door. Because that house isn't yours anymore, it's mine, and if you ever want to be welcome in it again, you have a lot of work to do. 3 months later. The trial lasted 8 weeks. I sat in that courtroom every single day, watching as they laid out the evidence. Text messages, bank records, testimony from David, testimony from Jessica's ex-husband in Oregon. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. guilty on all counts. Jessica got 7 years. Her brother got 5. David got 3 years probation, 500 hours of community service, and a restitution order for $180,000, but no jail time. When the verdict came down, David turned to look at me. I didn't smile, didn't wave, just nodded once. We had a long way to go. 6 months later, I was in my kitchen, in my house, with new locks and a security system when someone knocked on the door. David stood on the porch with Tommy and Sarah, my grandchildren who I hadn't seen in almost a year. "Hi, Grandma," Sarah said shyly. She was 8 now, so big. "Hi, baby." My voice cracked. "Can we come in?" David asked. "Just for a little while. I know you said we needed to take it slow, but the kids wanted to see you." I looked at my son. He looked different now, thinner, older, but there was something in his eyes that hadn't been there before. Clarity. Strength. "Come in," I said. They came inside, and Sarah immediately hugged me. Tommy, 10 years old and trying to be tough, held back for a second, then hugged me too. "I missed you, Grandma," he whispered. "I missed you too, sweetheart." David stood in the doorway, watching. "I'm in therapy," he said quietly. "Twice a week. And I got full custody. Jessica's parents tried to fight it, but after the trial." "Good. I also." He pulled an envelope from his pocket. "First restitution payment. It's not much, but I'm working 2 jobs now. I'll keep paying until every penny is back." I took the envelope without opening it. "How are the kids doing?" "Adjusting. It's hard, but we're managing." He looked at Tommy and Sarah, playing with the old toy box I'd kept in the corner. "I tell them every day that what happened wasn't their fault. That sometimes adults make terrible mistakes." "That's good." Silence. "Mom," David said softly, "I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I might never earn it. But I want you to know I'm trying. Every single day, I'm trying to be better." I looked at my son, this man who'd hurt me, who'd been hurt himself, who was fighting to become the person he should have been all along. "I know," I said. And for the first time in a year, I meant it. 1 year later, I was at Street Mary's shelter, sitting across from a woman named Patricia. She was 72, recently evicted by her daughter, scared, alone, convinced she had nowhere to turn. "My daughter said I signed the house over to her," Patricia said, her hands shaking. "But I don't remember signing anything." "Then you probably didn't." I handed her Amanda Torres's business card. "Call this lawyer. She specializes in cases like yours." "I can't afford a lawyer. She works pro bono. Trust me." I smiled. She saved my life. Patricia took the card with trembling fingers. "Did someone do this to you too?" "My son. And his wife." "What happened?" "I got my house back. She went to prison. He's rebuilding his life." I leaned forward, and I learned that being a mother doesn't mean letting your children destroy you. Sometimes the strongest love is the love that demands accountability. Patricia started to cry. "I just want my daughter to love me." "I know, but love isn't supposed to hurt like this." I took her hand. "You deserve better, and you can fight for it." She squeezed my hand. "Thank you." That night, I sat on my porch watching the sunset. My phone buzzed, a text from David. "Tommy's school play is next Friday. Would you like to come? No pressure. I understand if you're not ready." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back, "I'll be there." 3 dots appeared. Then, "Thank you, Mom. I love you." I didn't respond to that. Not yet. But I would. Someday. Because I learned something through all of this, something I wish I'd known 30 years ago when I was working myself to death for my kids. You can love someone with everything you have. You can sacrifice, give, provide, protect. But you can't let them take everything. You can't set yourself on fire to keep them warm. And if they hurt you really, truly hurt you, it's okay to step back, to demand better, to expect them to earn their way back into your life. Because love without boundaries isn't love. It's just slow destruction. And I'm done being destroyed. I'm 69 years old. I have my house, my dignity, my strength, and I have a second chance. Not everyone gets that. So I'm going to use it, starting with that school play next Friday. And then, we'll see. One day at a time. One boundary at a time. One moment of healing at a time. Because that's all any of us can do.